Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a very, very impromptu movie couple live because we have some breaking news. This was just it's interesting because literally on Saturday, you and I were talking about potentially what we could see with the DCU as far as DC movies go, because we now have James Gunn and Peter Safran being in charge of just the DC stuff. And now we were kind of like throwing up ideas of like Cavill's coming back as Superman. He may not come back as Superman because of there's that news with Wonder Woman 3, and then Patty Jenkins put out, a tweet about that. But today, I literally would not have seen this had I not looked at my Instagram. And this sent a shock through my system, and I yelled out, "Dustin!"
And I was like, "What? What's going on?" Because Wendy was her voice was very intense on how this is. Like I thought something tragic has happened, and it was something tragic has happened in my personal opinion.
Yes.
But I am very curious to dive into this.
Yes, and real quick to address this one comment from Zork the Dark One. This isn't breaking news. This was announced back in October. However, even if it wasn't ever confirmed by James Gunn or by Henry Cavill himself.
The official word has come out.
Yeah. So today we have, and this is literally the Instagram post from Henry Cavill himself, and we can go ahead and read that here. He says, "I have just had a meeting with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and it's sad news, everyone. I will, after all, not be returning as Superman. After being told by the studio to announce my return back in October, prior to their hire, this news isn't the easiest, but that's life. The changing of the guard is something that happens. I respect that. James and Peter have a universe to build. I wish them and all involved with the new universe the best of luck and the happiest of fortunes. For those who have been by my side through the years, we can mourn for a bit, but then we must remember Superman is still around. Everything he stands for is still exists, and the example he sets for us are still there. My turn to wear the cape has passed, but what Superman stands for never will. It's been a fun ride with you all. Onwards and upwards." Spoken like a true Superman.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the first thing that I do really want to acknowledge with this is the professionalism, the respect that Henry Cavill does come out with this tweet. The fact that it is very just respectful and like, hey, you know what? This is the decision that they have made. I understand it, even though I am very sad and upset. Things move onward and upward. The fact that he's like, I wish them the best of luck, really actually gives me a lot of hope, because the fact that James and Peter both kind of like invited Cavill in and said, "Hey, dude, just so you know, this is what's going to happen. These are the changes that we're going to be making. And unfortunately, the new Superman movie that we are planning does not have you in it." So, I mean, the way that it was presented to Cavill and the way that Cavill presented it on social media was just very professional. And it actually gives me a little bit of a more respect for the Peter James duo, for the plan that they have, for the thing that they're doing to move forward, even though I really wanted Henry Cavill to come back as Superman, because he did such an amazing job and he was so passionate about his role as Superman.
I will say, ever since James Gunn, and I mean, however you feel about this decision, obviously it's definitely you are in the rights to feel whatever you want to feel in this decision, for it, against it, whatever it may be. But I will say with James Gunn, ever since he, started this in this position, he has been quite vocal on social media and giving us, the fans, as much as he can without giving too much, because everything still has to get confirmed and greenlit and all that stuff. So I like that at least there is a little bit of that, just so like we, the fans, again, not the best news, but at least we got it and we got to hear it, not from somebody scooping it, but directly from Henry Cavill himself. James Gunn went on Twitter and actually said this. So there's a little bit more to it as well.
And before you go on, but this is the way that these things should be dropped between the studio, the people that are running the programs and the people that are involved in it. They're the ones who are presenting this information. And it just seems a little bit more well organized and presented in the way that it was meant to be planned. And then not, like you said, some big scoop and having everyone like some other third party presenting the news.
Right,
This
like
is
a like a
done
leak information, like
exactly.
text conversation. Which, by the way, I would hope Henry Cavill did not learn this via text message, because that would be awful. But yeah, I do prefer hearing it from the actor himself, and it's such a shame because I really enjoyed him as Superman. I thought he looked the part. I thought his performance was really great, and I'm really bummed that he was in so few films as Superman. Like literally only got one solo movie, and then the rest were kind of ensemble and cameos. So here is what James Gunn himself then tweeted. I actually am not sure if James Gunn tweeted this first and then but here is a little graphic for that, and go ahead and read that together. So this is from James Gunn's Twitter. Peter and I have a DC slate ready to go, which we couldn't be more over the moon about. We'll be able to share some exciting information about our first project at the beginning of the new year, which is not very far away. And then there's a thread that continues because, you know, Twitter doesn't give you enough characters to finish all your thoughts. And he says this, among those on the slate is Superman. And it's in the initial stages, our story will be focusing on an earlier part of Superman's life. So the character will not be played by Henry Cavill. This was 49 minutes ago, so it looks like probably he waited for Henry's post to go up, and then to out of respect, and then posted this. And then the last thread or post on Twitter from James says this. But we just had a great meeting with Henry, and we're big fans, and we talked about a number of exciting possibilities to work together in the future.
That's something I really want to talk about, is that last little section, but you go ahead.
Well, Roka and I were talking about this past Friday about what could potentially happen with the DC, and just like throwing out theories, like if they were to redo the whole thing, what would it be? And Roka actually had a theory that they would not necessarily go as young as a Tom Holland type, but someone who is slightly younger, because they can start Superman from an earlier year, and then that actor can age with the role. That will give a more cohesiveness overall to the DCU, which I think a lot of the fans have been wanting to see, regardless of whether they like the movies or not. And I know that's something I really want. So that's something there, and potentially, because we know about the multiple Earths in the DCU, because they also have a multiverse that's not exclusive to Marvel at all. That's not to say that Cavill can't come back as another Superman, or he could play another superhero.
Yeah.
Let him play. I mean, the man's built like a superhero, so let him play who he wants.
No, that's very true. That really does give me a little bit more. We get now a whole bunch of fan theories going on here. Is he going to come back as Superman in a future movie? Like, say, for example, if we did Crisis on Infinite Earths for the movie theater for major motion pictures, and then we can have Cavill come in as another Superman.
Yes.
Or is he going to be working as a new superhero? Like, say, if he's going to be this new, obviously they're going to probably be doing a complete Scorched Earth. The news about Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman is scrapped. We know that that's scrapped. We know that they're going to be doing a new Superman without
Man of
Henry
Steel
Cavill.
2, that script was, I think, rejected, I believe.
So my guess, this is just 100% personal guess, is that Peter and James are doing a complete Scorched Earth. That they're just going to keep things simple, to keep things so we have 100% control, and we're just going to start over. We're going to start on maybe a completely different Earth. So that means they can start build their foundation, build their group, and then be able to build on top of a firm foundation, which sounds great. And then once you have that strong foundation, you can introduce different Earths and kind of do what Spider-Man No Way Home did, which is bring in other very popular versions of their characters. They can bring in a Henry Cavill Superman, and then bring in an older version of Batman as well. But they're kind of doing that in the Flashpoint with I can't think of the first actor's name. Just blanking out.
For
the very first
Superman?
No, of Batman. Michael Keaton. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you very much. Sorry, my brain is just going a mile a minute, not keeping up. But then you can start introducing. You can just play with this world that you have once you've built it on a good foundation. But that also means James Gunn's Suicide Squad.
Right. What
Might
is
be
the
like
meaning
out the
of
window.
right? So I feel like if he's going to do what it's looking like now to not have Henry Cavill continue as Superman, to return as Superman, it makes sense so it would not make sense if he kept other actors on
Yeah.
who have, if you're thinking about the cohesiveness of the whole thing, which means it is they're wiping the slate clean and they are starting all over, which again, right now, for a lot of people, I think they're like screaming at their screens, like, why did you make this? Why did you, not at us, but like at the decision?
Yeah.
Like, why? Because a lot of us have already connected with these characters. Like when I think Wonder Woman, you know, like my head pictures, well, two people, Gal Gadot and then Linda Carter. So I think it's good that they're not announcing any new project until 2023 in January. So that'll give the fans to be with their emotion, kind of like Henry Cavill said, to kind of mourn this news, because that's a huge, like, I know so many people who are such big fans of Henry Cavill. We are one of those people. So
I loved him as Superman. I think he did an amazing job as Superman. He really just embodied the heart and soul of who Superman was.
Yes, absolutely. So while he will not be returning as of right now as Superman, he may return as a different DC character or somebody else, because James Gunn, and this is on the Variety article, that James and Peter are clearly fans of Cavill. So I don't think they want to do this either, but you have to think of the long term. You gotta, they have this 10-year plan, right? So this maybe is what they think will work best overall for the DCU. Like, and we as fans, because we're so worked up within our emotions right now, we may not feel like it, but we're gonna, I think, be patient and wait it out and see.
Yeah,
is the way to go. But that could mean, you know, James Gunn's own Suicide Squad may also be wiped clean. So, and that makes me wonder, then, are we going to get a similar announcement for Wonder Woman, for Aquaman? Because
I think that you're right. I think they're starting over.
Isn't Aquaman still coming out?
It's coming out, but I think what they're going to be planning on doing is, once all of these, Jason Momoa, Flash, all of these movies that have been slated, filmed, and put together are released, they're going to be like, okay, we are now starting over. Personal, that's once again just my personal thoughts.
Yeah.
But honestly, okay, so complete geeking out on fan theories on what could possibly happen is if, for example, this storyline does slowly build up to a point to where maybe they start exploring Justice Gods Among Us. There is a moment in that where they bring a Superman from another universe to fight the tyrannical Superman. What if the Superman that comes in through that different Earth is Henry Cavill? And I'm like, just in that big moment of this huge buildup of all these different movies, finally congeals into Justice and Gods Among Us, and we see Cavill come back to kind of save the day. I think would be an awesome.
And again,
reveal.
that's a fan theory. We're not hearing that from anybody else. We're just kind of speaking from our excitement and anticipation. So. Yeah, there's a couple of questions that I see you guys have in the chat. For example, like the Flash, like what's going to happen with that actor? I assume that if they're wiping the slate clean, that's everybody, including the current actor who's playing the Flash. Like that, it doesn't make sense. So, but again, we have to be patient and wait and see what kind of announcement that they announce in January, whatever that first project will be. So it's a wait and see. And it's certainly a shock to the system, this news, like just because he literally came back in Black Adam, I was like, all right, yes.
They were like, yeah, we're getting Cavill back.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh.
Here's another thing, and this is an article by Deadline. So there's going to be obviously a new Superman feature film that's going to be in the works, with James Gunn penning it, writing it. Henry Cavill, we already know that he's not going to be returning as Superman for that film. But Ben Affleck is also in talk to be in the future helming a future DC film. So could Ben Affleck finally get his Batman movie written, directed? Remember how years ago, wasn't that like a thing? That
was going to be the original plan.
Right.
But then I think the one with all of the drama that did happen at Warner Brothers, and also Ben Affleck going, oh, wow, directing and acting is a little, I think
It's hard.
It's hard.
Especially a role like Batman.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think he will come back to just direct a DC film, which I'm 100% game for.
I think it'd be cool if it was Batman.
I would be.
We know he's a big Batman
I did
fan.
like his
Even
Batman.
if he's not playing Batman, like I think that'd be really cool, and
Mhm.
I would like to see that happen. So we'll see what is announced later on. And again, plans change all the time. So just because it's reported today, it may not change. It may or may not change 6 months, 10 months down the line.
Plans change, but also so this is also something that our super chat that came in. Thank you very much, Jay Masters, for your super chat. Thank you so much for your support. Henry Cavill was at Disney's Avatar premiere in LA.
Yes, he was.
And this is also an interesting topic. So now that we know,
by the way, he was like sitting like rows just ahead of us.
Someone was like, "There's Henry Cavill." I'm like, what?
I was like, where?
I saw like the back of his head. I was like, oh,
it was very beardy.
That's kind of cool.
Very beardy with his blue suit that navy blue suit that he had on.
But this does free up Cavill to be in other superhero projects. There's a lot of fans out there that would love to see Henry Cavill as a Sentry from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and also to be able to have him, because now that he's not like Superman, which is the big DC property, it kind of does free him up, and we can see him now as other fandoms, which I'm excited for, and the fact that DC still wants to work with him.
Yeah, so they have no reason to not want to work with him.
I know.
I think he's super professional.
An amazing actor.
And then I want to go ahead and call out this comment here by Resident Justice, who says, "This is just my take, but I'm okay with a DC reboot. It sucks to lose Cavill," agreed, and these actors also agree, but James Gunn and Peter Safran should get a clean slate and be allowed to be told the DC story they want to.
Absolutely agree with you on that. The fact that, there's going to be a lot of sad things when you start over, when you lose things that you are so attached to. Like it shows that we're not going to get a Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. We're not going to get Henry Cavill as Superman. All of the things that we loved about the previous DC cinematic universe is not going to happen. But it makes sense if they are going to start anew, to be able to build a good, strong foundation and not have to worry about certain cracks that were made years ago.
Absolutely. And we have another
comment. Justice right there with you. I want to see that storyline.
And there's also another comment that I want to call out here. This one is by Michael Plano69, who says, "Does this mean..." I really wonder. Great question. Does this mean the Shazam and Flash sequels are meaningless? I don't know.
Well,
Shazam. Well, here's the thing about Shazam.
What do you mean by meaningless? I mean, technically, we go to these movies for entertainment and to enjoy them.
I think just overall as like building that cohesive DCU.
In that case, they're probably not going to do that. Or they're going to build up to a point that they're like, we were going somewhere with this, but this is where we ended.
That's such an interesting question, because that's got me thinking about Shazam. One of the things Shazam technically doesn't have is recognizable. Recognizable faces.
Because it was
all right. So it's like, it's established that we're in the DC universe, but it wasn't like Henry Cavill as Superman or Wonder Woman as Gal Gadot, and I don't think any other of the Justice League made an appearance in the first.
I don't think so. You could.
So you could
bring Shazam. You technically could. There was no hard evidence that he was on the same Earth as Henry Cavill.
Yeah,
we just assumed it. And the body of the torso of Superman that they showed at the end of Shazam looked very much like Cavill, but not necessarily. So that's actually a really good point.
Yeah,
they could bring Shazam with them. Now, I don't think they could. They can't bring Flash or Ezra Miller as Flash. They can't, and they probably don't want to work with him very much anyways. But they also can't bring Ben Affleck's Batman back, I think, because that's definitely defined in the other Earth.
So it's going to be really interesting, like, by the time we get to sit down and watch the Flash movie, and that's next year.
Yeah.
So
coming out pretty soon. I think we have like 5 months.
That's so whatever news that they have, whatever new announcement for whatever new project they have, we'll know that before going to the sea. I feel like it's gonna be interesting watching these movies like Aquaman 2, Shazam 2, you know, the Flash movie. That's going to be interesting knowing what we know right now. And the Moon commented this: didn't Black Adam cameo in Shazam? I mean, no.
Black Adam?
Those two have not crossed paths. We know that they in the comics, but
Yeah.
they in the film have not been established. Like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's character has not met Zachary Levi's Shazam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't know what happens in the next Shazam movie, but I'm also going to guess that if there was any like what is it called, end credit scene or a little cameo, they're going to be like, you know what, let's just take that out because it's not really going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because now or at least our theory is that they're starting a 100% clean slate.
Yeah. So with that, I think, wow, that is a very, it's, I want to say unexpected, but in the back of my head, I was like, I guess that's a possibility. I just didn't think we'd hear about it. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe it is somewhat unexpected. I think it's just shocking. It's shocking to go on Instagram, and that literally was like the thing that I saw. I don't even, because I don't have notifications on for like the trades for Instagram, stuff like that, just because there's too many and I'm distracted too easily. So the fact that when by the time I saw it, it had been posted for about 40 minutes already. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. So you guys, if you are watching us later on the VOD, let us know your thoughts on this breaking news. What do you think will happen to the future of DC? Do you have like, I don't know, fantasy casting for this younger Superman that they want to cast? And just your overall thoughts on everything. Let us know in the comments section.
That's actually a really fun conversation now, because now we get to start the whole DCU over again. And we get to do all of the fantasy casting that we want, because now we get a clean slate of superheroes that we're like, ooh, who's new and upcoming? Who's the big star? Who do you think could fit these roles perfectly? I'm actually really excited to start seeing some of the fan picks for new Supermans, new Batman, new Flashes. Now that we've seen a couple of them. So now we have a better idea of what we want. Yeah.
Well, you guys, that's it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in to this quick breaking news Movie Couple Live. First time ever that we have, I think, ever done anything like this. I saw it out and we had just happened to be home, and I said, okay, all right. So go comment, let us know. And if you're already here, like this video, helps us get more visibility on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next time. Bye, everyone.